Labour analyst Jonathan Goldberg joins us now for more on this, particularly on what effects stalling of these visas have on the economy. Mr. Goldberg, a very good evening to you, and thank you so much for speaking to us. So before we get on to what the possible problems are on businesses as a result of these delays, but have you, your office, or any of your representatives engaged the minister on this, which he says is the main source of the delays, the dependent visas?
I think Business Unity South Africa has engaged government many times, and so have many big corporates in respect to the delays, either for the actual person who's got the specialised skills that's needed in that manufacturing establishment or that business, or for their spouse and relatives that need to also come into South Africa. And I think there's no doubt that there are many examples. I put up on my WhatsApp group today amongst about 300 employers that are on my WhatsApp group, and there were 4 or 5 cases where people were waiting excessive months for specialised visas, not of the spouse, but of the actual person who wanted the specialised visa was needed in that particular business. So I think there are multiple delays in the department. And again, it's an old issue, so it's been around for some time. So even if the second problem is a problem, no one wants to come here for extended periods to help a manufacturing establishment or a specialised business without one's family. That is untenable. And if I was a specialised skilled person, I would just decline the offer and not come here.
So do you think that, for instance, people who are encountering problems of having their spouses or their family come to the country to dispense whatever contract that they've entered into could possibly be the reason why their applications are being held up, as the minister seemed to insinuate, that because of that, they're not able to process as quickly as they'd wish to?
I think for me, what we need in South Africa, specifically with applications for businesses and people with specialised skill that are in those businesses and their families, I think we need a transparent process. So if the department is saying there are no backlogs, then we should open up to the public to say, okay, firms, then report your backlogs on a public platform so we can have visibility and sight of that. I agree with the minister. Of course, you need facts and figures of who's still waiting, why they're still waiting. But surely for a couple of thousand of these that are critical for businesses and industries, that should be easily resolvable because it's focused. It's not a general application. These are specific industries, businesses that require these specialized skills. And yeah, I've been in this labor market for 35 years. I don't know any international business that wants to bring in a foreign national here when they could find the local skill here, just as a starting point. Why? Because in most instances, the foreign national costs more than the local particular person with skills. So just starting there, for most particular organizations, it's not really an attractive issue from a cost perspective to have a foreign person working here and their families, because generally you'd have to keep them safe at schools and the whole range of additional costs associated to that foreign person. So I think we need to start there to say most people making these applications, 90%, that's, I'm talking about businesses, people that are creating employment in this country, are not doing it because for any other reason, but they actually need that skill. I think we need to start from that premise, and I think we need to be open and transparent because we are facing a crisis in the world and in South Africa for the attraction of talent, and of course the attraction and keeping of businesses. I keep on saying to South Africans, we need to keep the foreign businesses we have before we can attract new ones. We need to retain our great motor industry and every bit of component of it, and do everything we can in our power to facilitate that it's easier for them to operate.
Okay, so let's talk about the critical skills that you say are, crucial to boosting investor confidence, but also increasing economic growth. Can you just share with us what areas, and if we can talk about figures here?
So take an example, if I'm a motor car plant and I'm ramping up a new model. So I've got a new model that we are ramping up and starting in South Africa. First of all, there's a build process of the new plant, plus all the facilities around that new plant. That requires skill that isn't generally available in South Africa for those specific motor plants. Of course, when you start production, you also need to make sure that the production runs smoothly, because generally in our motor industry specifically, we're exporting to the world. So any of those skills that are needed need to come in quickly, and we can't have any backlogs there. And I think to a general large extent that works well, but where there are problems, we need to resolve those problems quickly, because that would affect the current production of a current motor vehicle that needs to go to the international market. And of course, we know we're judged in our export products on the best standard, and therefore we need to produce a car that is truly world-class standard, inspected by world inspectors, not by our particular inspectors. So it's those kind of examples. Now, of course, there is abuse that's taking place, but then we need to focus on the abuse and not tar everything with abuse, because in the sectors that we operate in, the formal sectors, those people are genuinely trying to bring in the skills that they generally can't get in South Africa. And any laborious process that involves specifically two government departments, as an example, before you can get the permit, generally is slowed down by one department. So when you're dealing with two intergovernment departments, you're not only dealing with one potential department that could be slow, but potentially two. And then documents get lost, processes get lost, people on leave, people are then not doing that particular application, and that's where the delays come in. So
and I appreciate you saying
we've got to be transparent.
I appreciate you saying there's a need for transparency, but that one has to, work ahead of this. You mentioned the motor industry. So, for instance, if government is also at the same time trying to protect certain industries, when we're talking about scarce skills, are there sustainable programs or even concerted efforts to ensure skills transfer from these people who bring rare skills into the country?
I think we've seen that in many industries where the skills have transferred to locals. And again, I think just from a pure business perspective, the quicker you can transfer those skills to local people and transfer foreign nationals back to their own particular country, specifically when you're talking about Europe and the Americas, those costs are much higher than our particular costs in those particular industries. So there's no question about it that no one's keeping skill here that they don't believe they actually need to produce a world-class product, whatever that product might be. Okay. So I think there needs to just be much more efficient coordination.
Mr. Goldberg, we are running out of time, but I think it's important that I ask you this question. You're talking about crunching the figures. Let's talk about the current backlogs that we're seeing. You are saying, and other business entities or organizations are saying it's hurting the business world, it's hurting the economy. Are we able to quantify, particularly these current figures that we're talking about? I think in August last year, it was put at about 74,309. The backlog for permits and visas, respectively, 43,944. Are we able to quantify that?
That's the figures that I've got in total, with the other applications 95,000, but I've also got the figure of 74,000 as of the 7th of January, the report that I read. But, I did a little bit of comparison, and again, we're not only competing internationally in the European, Eastern and American world, but we're also competing with our African content. And the report that I read indicated that there's an average delay of 48 weeks here for these permits, and this is not my stats, it's research by another institution. And in Kenya, compared to Kenya, where it was 12 weeks, in Niger it was 8 weeks. So again, businesses vote with their feet. So when it becomes too difficult to operate in a terrain, then they move to another terrain. So it's difficult to quantify that, but the natural effect of that is we lose business opportunities and, of course, employment opportunities, because I think foreigners that come into skill, and that's been proved, foreigners come into skill create opportunities for local people in respect of jobs, whether the transfer of skill of those particular jobs or because they create value in respect of, for instance, manufacturing a product.
All right. Thank you for speaking to us, Labour analyst Jonathan Goldberg.